every company in the world, operating companies, public companies, they're actually running without any assets, without any capital. 90 to 95% of the company's market cap is just forward expectations that are subject to crash anytime. So buying Bitcoin, if Microsoft converts to the Bitcoin standard and they start sweeping their cash flows, their dividends, and eliminate their buybacks, over 10 years, you end up with a situation where the company generates $4 to $5 trillion of Bitcoin value, and it might be worth 10 trillion. So 50% of the market cap of the company is based upon digital capital. Right now, 95 to 98% of the company is based on expectations. So you see what you've done is you're acquiring property with your cash flows instead of surrendering your capital. That's why I think that any company in the world should do it. You de-risk the stock and you double the asset value of the company, and you decrease the stress on the management team and on the employees. And that means you don't have to force your customers into 3-year enterprise agreements, bundle all your products in and sign them to a 3, 4, 5, 10-year lease. And if you look at big companies like Apple and Microsoft, increasingly and all the big software companies, they go to long-term enterprise agreements that look like rental contracts. And those rental contracts put stress on the customer, they put stress on the management team. Eventually what happens is the customers and the partners complain to the regulators, and they want you to be a regulated monopoly. So if you strip your assets from your balance sheet, you're on a road to serfdom. You're going to end up as a regulated utility company, like a power company or electricity company. That's why I say every company can benefit. Let me go to the next model. The next model isn't MicroStrategy. The next model is any company that has assets like real estate or art or energy that is not that interesting to the market, where it returns less than the S&P index and has less volatility. That's dead money. That's a zombie company. You either can't take it public, or if it's public, everybody loses interest. If you recapitalize that company with Bitcoin, you take 7 vol, 7 ARR art, and you add 60 vol, 60 ARR Bitcoin, and you do 1 for 1, you end up with 35 or 40 vol, 40 ARR digital art. Now you can take the company public. Now you are going to outperform the S&P. Now you can raise billions of dollars of capital. Now people will trade your options. And now you've actually got a very hot stock. So you can fix any zombie, or you can monetize art, real estate, or any other asset class by bolting on Bitcoin instead of gold plating something. Like if I wanted to monetize a lighter or a pen, I would gold plate it in the gold era. I would Bitcoin plate it. I put a crypto reactor behind my art company or behind my real estate company or behind my energy company. And now I outperform the S&P. Now, the third business model is the MicroStrategy model. We're a pure treasury company. So what we're doing is we're creating a Bitcoin reserve, and we're stripping the volatility and the risk to create fixed income, low risk, mid risk, high yield, and then a Bitcoin type performance, and then a 2x, and enabling a 3x, a 10x, a 20x on the options ladder. So we're a pure play. The answer to your question is most companies won't do that. I mean, Metaplanet might. There could be like a company like MicroStrategy in every market. There could be one in Japan. There could be one in the UK. There could be one in Brazil. There might be 2 or 3. So there will be some of them. But that's a special class of crypto treasury company that these other companies, the zombie companies, juice their company. They're going to basically do 2 to 10x by putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And then all of the well-run traditional companies like Microsoft, they're going to 2x their market cap, and they're going to cut their risk in half. Those are the 3 business models. And I think that all of those are probably the most interesting thing going on in the world.
Do you encourage there to be more than one in the United States, or would that be competitive? And the reason why I say would that be competitive, because on the one hand, the more companies that buy Bitcoin, the more treasury companies that spring up around the world.
Berkshire Hathaway took $100 billion and created Bitcoin Hathaway tomorrow, and they bought all Bitcoin, then they could almost be like MicroStrategy. But who's going to trust Bitcoin Hathaway when they've been in the market for a month? Right? I mean, in order to get trust, you have to have hodled through the crypto winter. And you look at the Saylor tracker, and you can see that we bought Bitcoin in every quarter, like more than 40 times. And so we have credibility. We have a $100 billion market cap. We have $40 billion of capital. I'm not terribly worried that a $1 billion company is going to catch us. And I'm not terribly worried that Google is going to put 200 billion into this, because even if Google bought 200 billion of Bitcoin, they would still have a $2 trillion company valued on the Google business and YouTube, you see. So I think we're wasting time trying to figure out how some company copies or beats MicroStrategy. Is it a problem? It's totally not. But like, figure out how to create a $100 billion business with 40 billion of Bitcoin with no other exposure. That's the other point, because you can't own anything else. If you own real estate or bonds or high tech or NVIDIA, all of that stuff is dilutive and distracting, and it undermines the volatility. The reason MicroStrategy works is it is pure Bitcoin 2x. And so you have to create, and by the way, it's pure Bitcoin 2x and trusted. You know, you have to have $100 billion of investors in the options market and $100 billion of investors in the equity market who have to trust you to not sell the Bitcoin and to keep buying Bitcoin. So we're kind of unique. I don't claim any brilliance. We literally backed into it and got lucky. But the truth is, I think Apple and Facebook and Google and Microsoft got lucky too. I mean, and NVIDIA, it's like they were doing something. They knew it would be good, but they didn't know it would be 100x better than they expected. It's like, they kind of, you do something and then the market 100x's and you just happen to be there, and then you're Google. Okay, so MicroStrategy kind of happened to be there when the market exploded, so good for us. But I think focusing upon us is the wrong point. Here's the point. You can create a Bitcoin treasury company in France, in China, in Russia, in Hong Kong, in Tokyo, in Brazil. You can probably create one or two more in the US. Have at it. I'm fine with it. I'm not really worried. We raised 13 billion last month. We're going to go very, very hard. If you can go that hard, Bitcoin would go to millions of coin. If you can't go that hard, you'll just be another one. And then there's a lot of room it's very constructive competition. And so I think that if you're in the crypto ecosystem and you're a publicly traded company, you ought to recapitalize the Bitcoin. You should sell equity and you should sell debt to buy Bitcoin. You're going to make money. You'll rinse and repeat. You're going to go from a $5 billion or a $2 billion business to 10 billion, 20 billion, 40 billion, 80 billion, 160 billion. That is the Bitcoin way. The fiat way is you're going to invest in expensive electricity, expensive data centers, and depreciating NVIDIA chips or in depreciating in Bitmain chips. And that's basically taking you to zero, right? And that doesn't really make a lot of sense. Now, every other company in the world, every zombie company, every restaurant, every hotel, every travel company, every airline, every whatever, they've all got a US dollar capital structure. It's like you got a wood-burning stove in your house, and I'm telling you, put a crypto reactor and fuel it with Bitcoin, and you'll have unlimited, clean energy forever. And the most useful thing we could do is get that word out and get people to wrap their head around the idea of a crypto reactor on your balance sheet where Bitcoin is the fuel. And if you do that, then your balance sheet becomes a wealth-creating asset. And for 50 years, on the fiat standard, when the dollar is 0-0, zero vol, zero ARR against itself, for 50 years, the balance sheet was just a nuisance. It's like your appendix, or we don't know what it does, but it's like having your left arm tied behind your back. It's now possible to use your left arm and your right arm. You ever see someone try to lift a weight with their arms and not their legs? What I'm saying is use your legs, use your whole body to lift your weight. Don't just use your arms. Nothing could be simpler. All you have to do is think in Bitcoin, embrace the volatility. By the way, everybody runs from volatility. Volatility is fire. Are you the primitive Neanderthal that runs from fire? Because animals and wolves and and sheep run from fire. Or are you an engineer? Are you going to embrace the fire, put it in an engine, and then put it in your plane, your train, your automobile, and your house and your factory? Because that's what Henry Ford did. We just need to embrace the volatility. Don't fear the volatility. Embrace the crypto reactor.
The 42 billion raise, what's the time horizon on the raise?
Look, I don't have a crystal ball. You're asking me to predict the future. Okay, so when we announced this on October 30th, we didn't know that we would have a very enthusiastic embrace by the capital markets. We didn't know who was going to win the election. When we announced this on October 30th, we didn't know that we would have a very enthusiastic embrace by the capital markets. We didn't know who was going to win the election. We didn't know what Jerome Powell was going to say a few weeks after the election. We didn't know that David Sachs was going to be the crypto czar. I mean, there's a lot of things we didn't know when we announced it. So that was a few weeks ago, and we laid out what I viewed was a conservative plan. My view is you should always underpromise and overdeliver. This probably won't come as a surprise. Right. So you lay out a plan. I was reasonably confident that we would be able to do this in less than 3 years when we announced it October 30th. But, I literally didn't know what would happen in the next 4 weeks. So the answer to the question is we go as expeditiously as the capital markets will allow. And when the political winds blow in our favor and when the capital markets winds blow in our favor, we put up the sail, we go fast. And if the wind turns against us, and by the way, there's a certain mood in the convertible bond market, and there's a certain mood in the Bitcoin market, and there's a certain mood in the equity market, and there's another mood in the preferred stock market, and there's another mood in the bond market, right? When people change, if Jerome Powell lowers the interest rates tomorrow, if he were to drop them 200 basis points, there would be a surge in demand for corporate bond and fixed income, you see? So if Jerome Powell were to say, hey, we decided to go faster, the wind starts blowing and billions of dollars flow. And if Jerome Powell were to say, I think we're going a bit too fast, we're going to need to study the data, it goes the other way. So the answer here is we're an operating company. We operate. If you're investing in us, you're investing in me, Fong, Andrew, Sharish, and we're sitting every day. Every day I'm looking at what is the options market, what is the equity market, what is the debt market, what is the Bitcoin market, what is happening now, what's about to happen. And I can tell you the volatilities, the liquidities, the flows. And so if I have the ability to raise $2 billion in one day, I'll do it. If I have to do 200 million in a day, I'll do it. If I have to stop and wait, I'll do it. We decided to go to the bond market and we'd sold maybe an $800 million bond. And we came to the market 2 weeks ago and we started at 1.75 billion. So we doubled it. And then, a few hours later, we took it to 2.5 billion. And a few hours later, we took it to 3 billion. Okay, so sometimes that's a 20-minute phone call. So the question is, how fast will we go? As fast as we can, right? Subject to market conditions. And of course, we're not going to do anything that isn't going to generate BTC yield.